My name is Andrea Stevenson. I'm the Customer Enablement Team Lead here at Clio. My role encompasses leading a team of trainers who serve as the first point of contact post-sale, ensuring that you're onboarded with Clio as efficiently and effectively as possible. This is my third time here at Clio, and if you have any questions, concerns, curiosities, I'll be hanging out at registration all day. So in today's presentation, we'll hear from two very unique law firms who have struck a balance between financial stability and enacting on their values. These firms completely differ in the way they approach social impact, showcasing a future where there are endless options to make a difference. So let's introduce our panelists. So to my right here, this is Ryan Hilliar, CEO and co-founder of NOVOlex, law firm and legal clinic. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
And beside him is John Kassel, partner at Dunkiel Saunders. For anyone who attended last night's Mixer, you might have seen John featured in one of the Reisman videos. Congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
All right. Ooh. So just for a quick agenda today, we're going to do a quick intro of both of our panelists. We're going to jump into the models. We're going to have lots of time for questions. And we'll keep going. All right. So just to start, I'd like to ask both of you to describe your business model and tell us a little bit about how it works. Let's start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, so NobleX is basically a group of former big law lawyers who all left the large law firms to do something a little bit different. Basically, our model is pretty straightforward. So for every hour of paid legal services that we'll provide to larger corporate clients, we give 1 hour of pro bono services to low-income individuals, nonprofits, and early-stage startups. So really, it's the model in itself that's unique. We still, function as a traditional law firm would, the exact same way on both sides with our business clients and our pro bono clients alike. But that's really the piece that makes us kind of a different type of firm.
Beautiful. Amazing. And what about you, John?
Our model is a little different. I really admire what you've just described, Ryan, and I admire all lawyers who do a lot of pro bono work because, as we know, there are a lot of unmet legal needs, and it's really important to do that. We do good in the world by representing clients who are doing good in the world. So our clients are building wind farms, making affordable housing available in our communities, increasing access to health care, building solar farms, and transforming the energy future in ways that we feel are very important to meeting people's human needs as opposed to just meeting people's legal needs. We do that, and we do some pro bono work, but not much. We essentially achieve good in the world, the outcomes we want to promote in the world by helping our clients do that.
And your law firm's also B Corp certified, is that correct?
We are in the process of B Corp certification. For anyone who has been through that, it is a process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have.
Have?
We've been through it. Yeah, we were the first firm in Quebec that was certified as a B Corp and the second in Canada. It is a really rigorous process, and for us, there's a pride thing there as well, right? Because it's such a high standard that they said. I was reading something yesterday. I think it's 2,300 companies of the 77,000 who have applied up to now have been accepted into it. So I think once you're in, you do everything you can to kind of uphold their standards and keep it going in the right direction.
Absolutely, very protected model. So I'm curious of the motivation behind what prompted you to go down this road and start your businesses, and the why and what it took to get there for you.
I think the moment when it happened for me was I was actually asked to join the partnership at my previous firm, which was a national firm in Canada. And when you go to law school, often what you hear about is that's kind of the dream, work your way up all the way to that point where they say, you know what, you're going to be part of the partnership. And I was 9 or 10 years in, and it was funny. I thought I was going to be really, really excited, really proud of that achievement, and it just kind of didn't do it for me. And I knew that there was something that was missing there. And at about the same time, I was the president of the Board of Trade, the Young Board of Trade in Montreal, and so I was dealing with all these really innovative entrepreneurs. And the ones who I was most inspired by were the ones who, at the heart of what they were doing, brought some sort of social impact mission to their business. And so, as much as I wanted to invent this new product that would, cure people from malaria in Africa or whatnot, I'm not an inventor. So I thought, why don't I stick to what I do well? And I don't know, just reading different literature and whatnot, it kind of stuck with me, this really simple, easy to understand model, whereby I knew that every day when I would be waking up, getting out the door, I'd be helping, the clients that I was traditionally helping in the large national law firm, but I'd also know that maybe later that afternoon, I'd be helping, a sexual abuse victim in her process, before the court, or I'd be helping a nonprofit, in a settlement case with their insurer. So it's really this thing that kind of brought me back to why I became a lawyer in the first place. I remember when I decided to go to law school, what it was at the heart of it that made me want to, take that profession on for the rest of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, John, you guys have a lot more building blocks to how you think about things. How did that come to be? How did that comprise itself?
Well, we were, Ryan, your story resonates with me. I made a sharp change having received an offer of partnership when I realized, I can't do this. Years later, after doing a number of things, two partners and I came together. We had all been in the environmental advocacy community or in environmental enforcement or generally in cause-related work, and we wanted to try private practice again. And we realized if we did a traditional private practice, we would not make it to the end of our careers. Dissatisfaction, disillusionment is rampant in our profession. We know this. So we started with a hypothesis that we are going to have private clients, but we are going to enjoy it. We are going to enjoy working for them because we are going to enjoy what they do. And if we were more talented, we would do what they do, but we're not. We're lawyers, so all we can do is help them do what they do. And because we're lawyers, actually, we get to help a lot of them do what they do. Most people are, if you're an affordable housing developer, you spend your career doing that. If you're a renewable energy developer, you spend your career doing that. We get to do a little bit of that every week, for a number of different clients. It was a hypothesis that we could do this and make enough money to live the life that we wanted to live. It didn't take us long to realize that, to prove that hypothesis. And we've refined it now over 18 years, and frankly, Clio has helped us do that. And I don't know if that's what you'd like me to get into at this point.
Yeah, we'll get into that next for sure. Curious, before we hit, Clio's definitely a big part of it, but I'm curious, how do you put these concepts into operation? How do you think about the process? And what does that look like in terms of a tracking or a metrics or a looking back and being able to understand where you are and what you've given?
It's funny, when I was in a bigger practice, one of the things that always struck me is I was going, when I charge $500 an hour to a client and I'm receiving a small fraction of that, where do all those other dollars go? And it's pretty simple to figure out, where they go, right? You look around you, and if you, work in one of these high rises right downtown, and you look on the walls and you see these $25,000 paintings and you see the marble floors and whatnot, you realize that a lot of it is just in operational costs, right? And you see people with, sometimes 2 secretaries per lawyer, and you think, yeah, okay, I get why they have to charge $500 an hour to anywhere up to $1,000 an hour, the more that you grow in experience. And I saw that more as an opportunity. I thought that, if we were able, from an operational standpoint, to really cut out a lot of that fat, the profit margins actually become really, really interesting, even when you're charging less than that $500 an hour in your private practice. And so I saw that gap right there as where we were going to create our social impact. So you kind of get 2 choices, right? As soon as you figure out that, yeah, there's all that space and that's where my profit margin is, you decide one of 2 things. Either I use it to buy a Porsche, or I use it to help as many people as I can, because otherwise they won't have the representation that they need. And that kind of all ties back to our mission, right? We want to provide the best legal services that we possibly can to everyone, independent of their financial situation. And so I think the key to our success so far, and we haven't been at this game, for 18 years like you, it's only been 2 years, but it's really right there, right in that spot where you look at it and you go, okay, what am I going to do with this bigger profit margin that I've been able to create outside of the traditional large law firm space?
Absolutely.
We chose social impact.
Beautiful. What about yourself, John?
Ours is very similar, and I think for anyone who's in the law business, you get it. I mean, there's a subsidy going on, and you're absolutely right. You could just make top dollar and bring it home, or you could do something else with it. What we needed to figure out what is the right recipe, and we've been working on that for 18 years. And when we started, it was very rough. We had, let me be clear, not all of our clients are doing great things for the world. Some of them are just basic business clients. And we do that work, and we knew we would have to have a chunk of work like that to keep the lights on and pay us, pay our insurance, all that kind of stuff. We just didn't know how much. A few years ago, we started, well, actually, when we shifted to Clio, I should say, so it's 2 years ago, we got much more refined about it. And here's what we do now. Every time a new piece of work comes into the firm, we, of course, do a conflict check. As part of the conflict check, we also do a mission rating. And we do this through custom fields in Clio. I don't know if we're big on custom fields and the use of custom fields in Clio. And in our conflict check form, there's a box with a drop-down menu for mission rating. And whichever attorney is bringing the work in selects a number, 1 through 5, on the mission rating for that piece of work. 5 being super mission advancing, 4 is mission advancing, 3 is neutral, 2 is mildly negative, and 1 is, don't even go there. And so we embed, if we take the work on, we embed that code in a custom field into Clio. And we now can, it's not exactly simple, but we can extract from Clio, the data about the time that we spent and the revenue that we receive by mission rating. So we can produce pie charts that show that in this month, we had 46% of our revenue from mission 5 or 4 work, and 28% and 58% of our time. We can look at that over time. And that really helps us fine tune. And as you can imagine, the sweet spot, the best work is high revenue, high mission. And we have some of that. We didn't really expect that we would when we started a long time ago, but it's been really, really encouraging to realize that there is high mission work that we can use to also generate more revenue, which allows us to take on more cause work that is either pro bono or very low rate. And there's always a chunk of work that's mission 3. We have, I think, 1 mission 2 matter. We don't have any mission 1 matters, I'm pleased to say, that we just do to make sure that we can keep covering overhead. But we're now sizable. We're 25 people. So 15 lawyers, 23 people, I should say. So we have to be really careful about that. And we do that. Clio, by allowing us to sort, allows the data that way, allows us to be more careful in managing, which is important now that we've gotten larger. I would say this, it's also really good for our culture that we do this rating, because we have a weekly meeting every Monday, the whole staff, where among other things we look at the matters that just came in last week. And we often have a conversation about the mission rating that somebody chose for a piece of work. And it causes a really interesting conversation about why you rated that a 5 or why you rated that a 4. Because a lot of what we're doing is somewhat controversial. I've described it in real kind of glowing terms, but if you represent, as we do, for example, developers who are doing downtown revitalization, we think that's really important given the landscape in Vermont where we live. But that's very controversial work. Not everybody would understand or agree with the mission rating that we give it. And it keeps the mission of the firm alive within the firm, among other things that we do. So that's the process that we use to achieve our mission.
And Ryan, looping back to when I think about your one-to-one, I'm kind of thinking, okay, like, I work for Clio, I shouldn't think this. Sticky pad one, sticky pad one. How does that circumvent itself into either the product, or how do you look at your month at the end, month end, and say, okay, we have this many hours for paying clients and this many hours for pro bono?
Yeah, so much like you, I mean, we've taken full advantage of those whole custom coding type options that you get with Clio, and it allows us to do two things. So we've set up at NobleX an independent board of directors for our legal clinic, right? And part of their mission statement is to audit everything we do. Every year, they make sure that we're not just telling the public we do one-for-one, but that we're actually really doing it. And we cut ourselves some slack for the first year to really make sure that we're able to find that balance between the paid business work and the pro bono work. But because of Clio and those fields, we're in real time every single day able to see, are we on track with our mission one-for-one? Do we have some catch-up work to do, or can we be doing more paid work? And like you were mentioning also, it gives you kind of this idea of who in the firm is doing what, right? And I think on that basis alone, we were able to readjust after year one and found ourselves doing, because we had some catch up to do, we had a lot of success on the business side in the first year. It was an appealing thing to the business community to have this law firm kind of doing something really different, but knowing that you have top-notch lawyers at really competitive rates. In year two, we found ourselves saying, okay, we got to do some catch-up. We're behind on our one-for-one. And so in year two, we actually ended up doing more pro bono work than we did paid work, such that 2 years out, we've now done 6,000 hours of pro bono. And because of Clio, you track, who's doing it, what you're doing, what type of work it is, what type of clients you're servicing, and you really are able to create, all sorts of data-driven charts that really speak not only to the people who are in your firm, but, the outside kind of stakeholders who you're hoping to kind of come on board as partners with you. So Clio's been extraordinary for that.
Andrea, can I add, since we're talking about Clio, and since I'm wearing Clio socks here, I'd like everyone to know. Clio helps us do what I described, but it's not that easy. And if I may make a pitch to Team Clio here in the room, the ability to report data by custom field value seamlessly would be really, really helpful. And in fact, what we would like to do is have time and money by mission populate everybody's individual homepage, the page that comes up when you boot up Clio. Because we don't really care about the billable hour target. We don't have billable hour targets. We don't have revenue targets. That is somewhat meaningless to us. What is really meaningful to everybody in the firm is how much time are we spending on Mission 5 work, and how close are we getting to making the firm work financially by using Mission 5 or Mission 4 work. So I think to really be a data-driven law firm in a real-time way, that would be really, really helpful. And my hunch is, I'm not a coder, but I believe that wouldn't be that hard to do. So if Clio could see its way clear to providing that functionality, I would love to see it.
Product managers in the room? No? Okay, great. We will bottle this up and toss it over to them after this session. Let's pivot from Clio in process and get more into the aspirational side. So I'm curious, with your experience, 2 years of experience, 18 years of experience, what has been if you could identify like a pivotal accomplishment or moment where you really felt like either that you were super proud of or that you really figured it was going to work, what would that have been?
I think the only way a concept like mine or like yours works is if you have the right people working for you. We're 9 lawyers. We all come from the big law firm space. And I was talking about this yesterday with someone, and someone was like, what is that kind of common characteristic that everyone in your firm has? And I was like, expertise and generosity. And when I come back to your question, the pivotal moment for me, I remember I was talking with a junior lawyer who I work with really often, and we had just finished this pro bono case got a great settlement for a client in a really emotional type case. And she said, you know what? She's like, before I came to NOVOlex, there were so many days where I forgot why I became a lawyer. And she said, you know, I wouldn't be able to do the work that we do on the pro bono side if we didn't have the revenue coming in somehow. And so I think that, you know, social impact, yes, you do it because it, you know, does good in society and whatever, but it also makes people happy. It makes people want to go to work. And we've really leveraged that from a recruitment standpoint because there's, you know, people are disillusioned about the profession and what it takes to achieve success as a lawyer. People think that becoming a lawyer now means, you know, striving towards getting 2,000 billable hours one year and then 2,100 the next and hopefully 2,200 the year after that. And I think where I'm hoping we'll have success is really redefining what it means to be a lawyer and really changing the way we exercise our profession. And for me, that's kind of been, up to now, what I'm most proud of, just redefining what it means to be a lawyer in 2018.
Absolutely. I think that's what both of you exemplify is the fact that this is not a one-size-fits-all business or a, you know, industry. It really can be what you want it to be. What about you, John? What is your
I completely agree, Ryan. You said that beautifully. There's not much more I could add. Although I would say this, we actually experience joy in our daily work life on a daily and weekly basis. And it's really, really cool. And it's joy over some of the most mind-numbingly boring stuff that lawyers do sometimes, right? We're cranking through interrogatories, we're going through, but you know, we are joyful about why we're doing it. And I think if there was a moment, it was 6 or 8 years ago, we started to realize that we were attracting talent from the traditional law firms in town, much like you described. And these are at the junior level. So these are 5, 6, 8-year associates who were saying the same things that we said when we started the firm, which is, I want to be a lawyer my whole career, and I'm not going to make it in that other model. I have to have a place that feeds me, that feeds my soul, that gives me meaning, that makes me want to come to work. And we have it. People are thrilled about it. I've been sending back stuff from this conference to the firm, for example, the video about the award, and it was just this buzz of responses about, you know, this is so cool, this is why we work here, this is great. And that is the most gratifying thing.
Beautiful. So one last question, it'll be a quick one. Is there an act two? Is there a next step to this model? What are your kind of dreams and aspirations for what the future holds?
I'd say 3 steps very quickly. One of the things that we've identified is that we're very strong at, you know, both ends of the spectrum, and that we need to do a better job in between both. And so, you know, we're really good at servicing, you know, the publicly listed client who can pay you X amount of dollars per hour. And we're really, really good, you know, at servicing a pro bono client who's making $13,000 a year and who's just thrilled that, you know, they're getting, you know, a former national law firm lawyer on their, you know, rental board case. You know, we're really good at both ends of the spectrum. And but what I notice is that, you know, there is this gap in the middle where we have to find some sort of innovative solution to be able to, you know, service this middle ground. Maybe it's through something, you know, some different types of fee arrangements. Maybe it's, you know, the way we staff our files. Maybe it's just something in the business model that needs to change, but that's step one. Once the business model is completely proven and sound, we do have aspirations to bring this model to other urban centers around Canada and hopefully elsewhere around the world, because that's where you also have those 2 ends of the spectrum, right? You have the big business that's going on, but you also have, you know, a lot of poverty, you have a lot of nonprofits, and you also have that big startup community. And the third thing is that, you know, we think that this is a model that for other professionals can be something that's inspiring to them, right? Think about dentists. Think about, any professional who really spends their day right now working only for the clients who can pay them top dollar, but really wishes that they can kind of also service that other part of the clientele who probably needs it just as much or more as the ones who are able to pay. And so, we're talking over a vast span of time here, but I mean, if we can develop in that way, I think we'll be able to say mission accomplished.
Absolutely. John, any evolution to your next phase?
The middle space on the spectrum, I get that, and I think we maybe get a chance to do more of that because we're not so much a pro bono model. We could talk a little bit more about that. Be happy to chat some more. For us, I mean, the firm is now, we're 18 years into it. I and a couple of other partners are near retirement. So a really interesting next phase for us is how does the firm survive over time, or does the firm survive over time? So we're spending a lot of time on that, and for all of you who've been through that sort of evolutionary phase of a business, particularly a law firm, that can be a little bit tricky. We don't have any buy-in, there's none of that, it's a very democratized place, so that in some ways makes it easier. But I do think that I would agree with Ryan that there is replicability to this, certainly within the legal practice, the legal industry, and perhaps in other service providing industries as well. And I think particularly in the legal industry, because there is a hunger among lawyers for meaning, for satisfaction, for joy in their practice. There always was, and I think, unfortunately, legal training, at least in the US, is really good at making you forget about that or believe that it's out there, but you don't find it. There are ways to find it, and we're very interested in helping others give it a shot.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Ryan and John. Give you guys a round of applause. All right, now we have a few minutes for audience questions, and if we don't get to all of them, we will definitely try to take some time after the session. Yeah, and we have the lovely Nicole running around with a microphone. Nicole, where are you? There we go. We have Jordan up front here. She's coming.
So you mentioned there at the end kind of helping others expand this idea and get into this model themselves, and I'm curious, because you have big firm experience, you talked about being in mid-sized firms now. What do you think would be the challenges for a new lawyer going solo to model their firm after what you are already doing?
I think that some of the most successful social impact businesses are the ones who, when they started at the very base, they incorporated social impact into their model. And so I think for a young lawyer, someone starting their practice, it's more an opportunity than anything else, because you work out the financials of it from the beginning. You work out a way of making something like that successful from the beginning, and you're doing a lot less fine-tuning and changing just to try and incorporate things in after the fact. So I think on one hand, it's a struggle. It's always a struggle I've found for lawyers who start their practice just right out of law school. I think I would personally recommend to anyone to gain experience with other lawyers around them before they get out on their own. I think that was something that was extremely helpful to me. I don't think that we would have had the same success if I had started this 1 year out of law school. But also, when comes the time to start that new firm, figure out what that mission statement is and figure out, how you operationalize it to make it work from the very beginning.
Beautiful.
I would agree, and just note that anyone starting or running or whatever phase you're in, there's a marketing element here. You have to be really clear about what you want and what you're good at, and it really helps to start with a client and bring that client with you if you can. I would also say, whether you're solo or a small group, as we were in the beginning, or large, be prepared to make compromises, because you have to make money to advance mission. No money, no mission. And you will make compromises, and be as prepared as you can be in advance to know which things are not negotiable and for you personally, and which are compromisable. There is a marketing element that we really haven't talked that much about, but it works really well for us, to be honest with you. We wear our mission on our sleeve. It's all over our website. Our clients find us. We rarely have to tell clients, anything about who we are because they know who we are. And increasingly, at least in the economy that we work in, clients want to work with us. So I would say to someone starting out, have faith. I think the economy is turning in that direction, or at least enough of it that you'll get the clients that you need.
Beautiful. Nicely answered. I think we have time for one question. I think we have over here the lady in the black.
I just wanted to say thank you. I'm so grateful that we had this session. Thank you to Clio and also to you guys. I've been working on this whole arena for the last decade at least with the state bars and with the American Bar Association. But specifically, I've totally given up on the partnership model, and we only have been working with the incubators and with the solo practitioners in combination with like Legal Shield or Legal Zoom or the contractors in order to take the marketing off the back of that and kind of get a standardized practice right out of turnkey, right out of law school, so that they can have a practice that is sustainable and also allows them to fill the gaps on social services and be. But I never thought there was a marketable model for this, and possibly it's only working in Canada. But I'm so grateful to hear about it, and I will be contacting both of you later to hear about your business plan and how the heck you managed to do this. It was just awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
I would just note that in terms of marketing, I mean, we're not in Canada, although we're close to Canada. We're in northern Vermont. But it's Vermont, so it's a little bit, it's kind of like Denmark, I guess. I mean, it's a somewhat rarefied market. Well, there you go. But I mean, take the Adirondacks. This is upstate New York. I think there's we're not a huge firm. You don't need to be a big firm. You shouldn't really be a big firm, I think, if you're doing this, to be honest with you. And there are pockets of, I'm sure there are some states in the country where you would really struggle. But millennials have a whole different way of doing business, and they are building meaning into their businesses, and they want to contract with people. Right.
Beautiful. I think that's all the time we have today, but thank you so much. John and Ryan, give them another round of applause.